Wondering if you were going to show up. I see Agrippa convinced you to run some errands. Tell me, is everything nice and clear now? Am I the villain? Good and evil. Such comforting concepts, but hardly applicable. Are you so blind that you see no good in me or evil in Agrippa?
Isolation, darkness, hopelessness. These are the elements of fear. They're the building blocks of the horror genre, and the cornerstones of game design within said genre. Almost every horror game imaginable utilizes these elements in some capacity, and they've been around for a very long time. From the early days when Resident Evil coined the term survival horror to when Silent Hill introduced psychological horror into the mix, horror as genre is one that has evolved over time, and that I've been following for a very long time myself. If Alone in the Dark is the grandfather of horror and Resident Evil and Silent Hill are the fathers of horror, we consider Amnesia the millennial son of horror, getting older by the day but still a memorable contributor to a genre that has had its ups and downs. There have been a few Amnesia games, but today we're going to be talking about the one that started it all. The game that probably kickstarted tons of YouTubers' careers of reacting to video games, albeit some of them exaggerated for dramatic effect. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which now admittedly sounds like something that a 14-year-old edgelord would title a game. Back in 2010, this was groundbreaking stuff. Amnesia changed how we looked at horror, both in a good way and in a bad way at times. It's a game that is now regularly brought up when talking about horror as a genre due to its, at the time, unique gameplay and storytelling. It's a game that gets praised up and down, and expect a good chunk of that here, because it's one of my favorite horror games, although I will be talking about some of its weaker elements. On the drawback though, it is a game that many games have tried to mimic, and sometimes to mixed results. Amnesia definitely spawned a copycat trend where every other game tried to be a boring walking simulator using the spooky elements of Amnesia, but missing every single mark. At the time of writing this retrospective, Amnesia, while originally only on PC, has been ported to pretty much every modern console at this point. And the differences are negligible unless you're talking about the Nintendo Switch version, which is locked at a lower frame rate and definitely likes to chug from time to time. Though I have finished the game on that platform twice, and I can say it's still very playable, just not the best way to play it. But if you want a portable version of the game, it's an option if you lack a Steam Deck. The footage you'll be seeing is from the PC version that I played maybe 2 years ago, last on the PC. But fear not, for this is a game I make a pilgrimage to almost every year, so I actually played it again right before making this video, so it's fresh in my mind. Amnesia's franchise may have had some shaky turns in terms of direction lately, but there's no denying that the original game still stands up upon a pedestal above the industry as it sets standards for many games to come after it. Again, sometimes to mixed results. I can spoil some of this video for you right now. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a fantastic game, and if you've never played it before, I would highly recommend pausing this video and playing it before proceeding. That is, unless of course you're too scared. If that is the case, then I can't blame you. This game scared the pants off of most people who played it back in the day. I would even argue that it's still scary even to this day, showing us how to approach horror in a manner that respects the player's intelligence, but also knows how to get into your head. I also have to comment on how absolutely cool frictional games the developers are before we continue. They not only gave permission to make this video about their game, but they also released the source code for Amnesia: The Dark Descent a few years ago, so it's basically public domain to an extent. You basically have no reason not to play this game unless you're just too scared. Seriously, stop being such a wuss and play this game. There is a treasure trove of things to talk about when it comes to Amnesia's design. So many things that I'm just going to pick somewhere random to start. The music. You've been hearing it in this entire video so far, but the music was done by Mikko Tarmia, which I've probably butchered that, and I'm sorry. And he absolutely nails the horror theme. The music is ambient when it needs to be, and suspenseful when it needs to be. Combined with the expert level sound design, Amnesia demonstrates so expertly how perfect sound cues are insanely important for a game to give you the horror vibes. It's also an example of how sound design plays a crucial role in game feel. Something as simple as walking through a hallway is complemented by creaking noises, the sound of wind blowing through broken windows, and just general ambient music that just fits so perfectly. Music appears right when it needs to and sets the mood, and it's freaking downright eerie at times. Just listen to this. Sets the mood so perfectly. It's all further reinforced with absolutely immaculate voice acting. The protagonist, Daniel, is voiced by Richard Topping, and he absolutely delivers with his dialogue, which is both expertly crafted and spoken with true conviction. Amnesia might have some of the best voice acting in the video game, if I'm being honest. Take a listen.
Take the man, cut the lines, cut the flesh, watch the blood spill, let it come. Please, I didn't do anything. Paint the man, cut the lines, paint the man, cut the lines. Please, the man cries. Now you see. I did well. One life for another. You hear me, guardian of the orb? I did all this for you. Now, once more, withdraw your shadow from my domain.
While there are only a small handful of characters, every single one is voiced so amazingly. So you have full immersion while playing this game. If you play this with headphones, you'll piss your pants. I actually had to change my pants twice while making this review, but that was for unrelated reasons. It's not just the audio though. Amnesia is full of art design that will give you chills. It was heavily inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, and it shows. Considering the engine's made was even named after him, Castle Brandenburg really comes alive as you progress through it. Everything feels like it has meaning and purpose. All the levels feel connected, and they are literally descending the architecture as its name implies. There are times where you feel claustrophobic just being pushed into tight, narrow places, and the atmosphere really makes you feel like you're being hunted. Design marries gameplay here, and in the best possible way, because almost everything about how the levels are designed is meant to invoke a certain reaction out of you. Just entering a safe hub area for the first time makes it clear just by what you're looking at that you're in a sanctuary away from the horrors that have been hunting you, even if for just a brief moment. The best example I can think of is the hub you reach right before the elevator saga of the game, where the light cascades from the room and slightly uplifting music begins playing. This is expertly contrasted when you're trying to leave this area, and now the once peaceful scene is marred by blood, corpses, and fleshy growths. Environment plays a huge role in this game, but we'll get into that in the story segment of this video because there's a lot to talk about there. The world you're exploring in this game feels like it's against you. It's like it's actively trying to take you out, and you're in this race against time to run from the world itself, going deeper and deeper into the castle, knowing that eventually you'll reach a point where there is nowhere left to run, because you're going to reach the very bottom. Your efforts feel futile, and the sense of being trapped is constant throughout the game. You might try and argue that it's difficult to appreciate design choices of the game due to being in the dark so often, but I actually feel it adds to the atmosphere. Darkness is a gameplay mechanic in and of itself. See, in Amnesia you can't just fight back. All you can do is run from your enemies and try to hide from them. Unfortunately for you though, your character is also afraid of the dark, and you'll slowly lose your sanity within it. This is where Amnesia's famous sanity meter comes into play. Though admittedly Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem did that first. But Amnesia just does it much better. As your sanity drops, movement can be impaired, such as making you crawl on the floor, movement becomes blurred, and you even start to hallucinate, which sometimes really gives me a run for my money in terms of scary factor. On the hard difficulty, you even die if your sanity reaches 0. Your only means of warding off your sanity from dropping is to stand in the light. Unfortunately for you, the majority of the game forces you into places that are nearly pitch black, far away from any kind of natural light from ever reaching them. You have a solution to this though, a lantern. That runs on oil. This means that you have to conserve your light and use it only when necessary. Aside from it and the occasional tinderbox you can find to light torches, you're virtually helpless in the dark. However, darkness does have for one benefit. Enemies can see you better in the light, so hiding in the darkness makes it easier to avoid them. All of this means that you have a complicated relationship with light. It protects your mind from losing your sanity, but it acts as a homing beacon for your enemies. Using your lantern then becomes a strategic choice at times, and makes you almost always aware of not only your resources, but your foes while using them. Lantern oil is limited in the game, and it's entirely possible to find yourself stuck in the dark for long stretches of time if you get lost and can't find your way. Which may happen in some of the levels such as the prison, where there is no map that you may take with you or pull up from the menu. Meaning it's up to the player to keep track of where you are so you don't end up getting turned around and being taken out by one of the many monsters wandering in the dark. Speaking of monsters, Amnesia's monsters are another highlight of this excellent game. You never really get a good look at them, as looking at them actually drops your sanity, but that's part of the charm. We'll get more into that in the story segment of this video, but know that the monsters really are something else, and once you see them, they will live in your brain forever. Like I said before, you're not a fighter, so a couple of hits from one of these enemies within the game results in death. Even the health and sanity icons are iconic, no pun intended. I think I'll have a picture of that brain stuck in my head forever with the phrase, "head is pounding, hands are shaking under it." This is all truly groundbreaking stuff, and it's super amazing to see even to this day. Game design mechanics, Amnesia gets a straight up A because there isn't a minute of this game that isn't oozing with excellent design choices. It can be a bit hard to figure out where you're going though. Admittedly, the controls can be a bit precise at times, especially on consoles. It's nothing to write off, that's for sure, but you may need to take a few minutes to adjust to it, that's all. My only other complaint there isn't a lot of enemy variety in the game, and one of the enemies is literally invisible, but it makes up for it by being a chilling silent hunter. While it does lack an enemy variety, it uses the few it has expertly, that's for sure. I'd rather have 3 or 4 well fleshed out enemies than 20 who just reskins of each other, functioning the same. What does this all boil down to? The game is scary, that's what I'm trying to say here, okay? Amnesia focuses on slower-paced storytelling, revealing information in tiny pieces when it becomes relevant so you can slowly piece together the bigger picture. A lot of what you can infer comes from environmental storytelling too, as looking around you can see implication of what's been happening. You get to learn about the visitors of Brennenburg and their fate through the imagery of what is all around you and the documents left behind. The writing is so skillfully done and may take you a bit of time to sit back and really appreciate how poetic what you're really listening to is. What's really going on here though? You play as Daniel, an archaeologist assistant who finds himself in Brennenburg Castle, Prussia. You wake up after getting amnesia where you find a letter to yourself that more or less explains the entire objective point blank.
19th of August, 1839. I wish I could ask how much you remember. I don't know if there will be anything left after I consume this drink. Don't be afraid, Daniel. I can't tell you why, but know this. I choose to forget. Try to find comfort and strength in that fact. There is a purpose. You are my final effort to put things right. God willing, the name Alexander of Brennenburg still invokes bitter anger in you. If not, this will sound horrible. Go to the inner sanctum, find Alexander, and kill him. His body is old and weak, and yours, young and strong. He will be no match for you. One last thing. A shadow is following you. It's a living nightmare, breaking down reality. I have tried everything, and there is no way to fight back. You need to escape it as long as you can. Redeem us both, Daniel. Descend into the darkness where Alexander waits and murder him. Your former self, Daniel.
So yeah, we have to go down to the inner sanctum and find a man named Alexander and help him push some daisies. The shadow is something I haven't mentioned yet too. It's an entity that chases you through the entire game, covering everything in fleshy growths that hurt to touch. There are even sequences where the player has to run from it directly, which are insanely intense. While Daniel traverses through the castle, he'll periodically have flashbacks from his time prior to gaining amnesia, where he hears his time with Alexander, the mysterious baron of the castle.
Alexander, is it inside the castle?
In a manner of speaking. Come, bring the lamp. You've been to the refinery, have you not?
I don't believe I have. Is it connected to the... what did you call it?
The inner sanctum. My most precious chamber, Daniel. And it lies well beyond the refinery. In fact, it lies beneath the very stone of Brennenburg.
Alexander is clearly very imposing and a mysterious man who we find out through notes scattered around isn't exactly quite what he seems. In actuality, he's an immortal baron who captures people to bring to this castle to perform unspeakable experience and torture on them. I'm not going to spoil too much, but let's just say the story gets progressively more supernatural and dark. I'm giving the abridged version, but Daniel finds a mysterious orb in a chamber in the Algerian desert.
It was waiting for me. Enclosed in dark nothingness, I felt myself drawn to the mystic light. I reached out, closing it in my hands. The faint glow escaped my fingers and began to spark brightly and spirit me away, unlocking alien memories of spiraling towers, endless deserts, and impossible geometry.
The orb, however, appears to be possessed by a dark curse that makes a shadow follow Daniel, killing all in its path to reach him. The story of the game is delivered, as I mentioned, through implications. We get a good idea of what kind of man Daniel was as he descends through the castle, and find out that Alexander convinced Daniel that using warding rituals where he would torture prisoners and keep the shadow astray for a time. But this, of course, was all a ruse. What's really happening is Alexander is not of this world. He's a being that's been trapped here in a form of banishment from his world, and he's been looking for a way to get home. But to do so, he needs a substance from his homeworld called vitae, which he could be found by extracting from humans who are in serious distress or pain. He convinces people to help him find victims for him to torture to produce this vitae, and often discards them when they discover the horrors of what he's actually doing. At one point he worked with Johann Weiner and Cornelius Agrippa, real people actually, who dabbled in the study of occult. Johann, however, betrayed Alexander, and so to keep Agrippa from doing the same thing, he imprisoned Agrippa within an immortal body that he had bound. There is a branching story point where Daniel can help Agrippa escape by creating a tonic that will allow him to take Agrippa's head with him and use it during its final confrontation with Alexander. Eventually, Daniel discovers the truth of what Alexander is doing, and he has no plans to truly help Daniel escape the shadow. Overrun by guilt of the crimes that Daniel had committed by being tricked by Alexander, he takes an amnesia potion so he can forget the horrible things he had done, and leaves a note to himself to get revenge on Alexander. The really interesting part here, though, is that the player pays close attention. We actually find many logs by Alexander that show some level of remorse for what he's doing, even trying to find a substitute for producing vitae. His motivation is merely to return home so he can be with the woman he loves back in his own world. He needs something called a Traveler's Locket, which he lacked to return home, so everything he did throughout the game and his life on Earth was all in service of trying to recreate one. Apparently a piece of technology from his whole world that will allow him to travel back. This makes him an interesting villain because while his motives are partially selfish, they're understandable, and he is shown to not be completely evil as a person. He obviously has some regret for how things played out, and doesn't view Daniel in a completely contemptuous way. It makes him somewhat ambiguous, and it's up to the player how they decide to feel about him. And this culminates so perfectly with the ending where the player can choose to allow Alexander to return, destroy his ritual, or throw Agrippa's head in the portal created by the Traveler's Locket, sabotaging Alexander. Each ending feels different, and to be honest, I can't really decide which feels the most justified. All of them emotionally are fitting, and that's the mark of a good story, as no ending feels like it was just slapped together. Every ending feels like it had thought and process put into it. Regardless of which one you pick, they all feel like they match what really should happen. The story is definitely something that you have to pay attention to if you hope to understand it, but it's not a bad thing in my book. I really like games with deep story. As for the monsters that hunt you, they're the deformed humans who have become Alexander's gatherers, serving him mindlessly, and they will hunt Daniel relentlessly throughout the game. These enemies are the heart of Amnesia's experience because they offer a peek into what happens to those who try to stop Alexander from reaching his goal, but also are the perfect example of using your imagination to scare you. Most of the time you don't get a good look at these things, as your sanity meter discourages it, not to mention you're in pitch black, but darkness most of the time. In fact, the first time you even encounter one, it actually can't even hurt you. But so much of the game is actually like that. It's actually designed to make you feel like you're always in danger, but you never know when you actually are in danger. It's actually quite incredible, and it's really, really cool. Amnesia's story is definitely at the heart of what makes it so interesting. While it is minimalist to some people, it's very deep on a darker level. If you dig into it, you'll find yourself seeing that the story is much more than meets the eye. Your first glance at it, you might not even notice some of the things that are happening if you're not paying close attention. If you played this back in the day when you were younger, I definitely recommend replaying it so you can get a better look at the story because you'll probably notice things that you didn't if you were a kid. All in all, Amnesia has a fantastic story, one that I definitely recommend experiencing. With the developer's commentary mode, it's worth it to replay the game and hear it about its development. There's definitely replay value just for that, and of course you can try your hand at hard mode, which I have beaten before. It'll definitely test your knowledge of the game, as you have to play through the entire game with limited saving, and tinderboxes are what you use to pay for saves. And of course, as I already mentioned, on hard mode, insanity reaching 0 results in death. It definitely makes the game much more challenging, that's for sure. Naturally though, to get 3 different endings, you could replay the game 3 times to see them all, though most people just create a save file right there at the final room and just choose differently. So long as you already have Agrippa's head in your inventory, you can experience all 3 endings simultaneously, though that's far less fun. Each ending will actually grant you a password fragment that when combined will make a password to unlock a secret file within the game's directory, including concept art, early development footage, and more. It's kinda unique, and I kinda miss when games did clever stuff like this as unlockables. There really isn't too much else to see beyond all that though, but the game still has replay value solely because it's just that good. I've replayed this game at least half a dozen times, and I'm likely going to start playing it again the moment I get done with this script just because it's just such a good experience. It's like I've said so many other times already, replay value sometimes is just a game being so damn good that you want to experience again, and Amnesia is definitely one of those games. Then there's games that you wish you never experienced even for the first time, such as Double Dragon 3 and the Genesis. But we're not going to talk about that again because I already did a video on that. There's little else I can say about Amnesia that hasn't been uttered 1,000 times before in various other videos made by bigger creators. But that doesn't mean I won't take the time to recommend such an astounding piece of horror history just because doing so would be unoriginal. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a masterclass in horror, using suspense so skillfully that it'll leave you in awe, begging for more, which you're in luck because there's an entire franchise after this game that you can enjoy if you're hungry from wandering around the dark hiding from spooky stuff. This is a game that if you haven't played before, you definitely should treat yourself if you're a big horror fan like me, because you're really missing out if you play this absolute gem of a game. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is definitely a very important game in the horror genre, and every horror fan should definitely experience it at least once, if not multiple times. Let me know what your experience with Amnesia was in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one, and check out my other videos. I'm WizPlay, and that's enough of that.